my name is Jenny Frank, and I'm the head of educator programming and engagement at LabXchange. I'm rather new to the position. I came out of a school district in New York State, and my background is a little bit around some administration experience, professional development, and I think the part of my career that I'm most proud of was being a middle school and high school science teacher. So I definitely feel like I'm coming to you today as an educator, and I'm speaking to you about some of the challenges that I faced in the classroom and how I believe that LabXchange can really help to alleviate some of those struggles, some of those challenges, and to really inspire your students to get excited about science, because at the end of the day, that's really what LabXchange stands for. It's about inspiring our kids to see themselves in science and to pursue those future careers in science. I really truly believe in my heart of hearts that we need more students who can see themselves in science. So one of the things that Dr. Liu said, and I absolutely love, is that everyone needs science and science needs everyone. And, to realize this vision, we recognize at LabXchange that there is an essential role of the educator on our platform. You're engaging, you're educating, and most importantly, you're empowering the next generation of citizens who will have a passion for science and recognize their greater potential as contributors to solving probably some of the world's greatest challenges that we know of. So today, I want to take some time. I want to introduce you to our extensive library. And I also want to talk to you a little bit about our flexible approach to content customization. And most importantly, I do want to talk to you about time-saving benefits and features of LabXchange. I think that you'll be really pleasantly surprised, and I'm excited to show you more. But I've learned this from Jeremy. It's always best to get everybody signed in. So today we are going to do some really great things. And Jeremy, you are on the ball. I appreciate it. He's just posted in the chat the link. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd appreciate it if you could go to that link. And what I'm going to do is walk you through very quickly on how to set up a free educator account. And the one thing that's really important, I'm going to say it probably 4 more times, is that LabXchange is free. Every part of LabXchange is free. The features and benefits behind the educator account wall, in front of it, they are free. And we will make that commitment that they will always be free. So is everybody at the LabXchange spot? If you can give me a little hand raise, a little reaction.
I think maybe let's go the other direction, Jenny. Just kind of keep on trucking. And if anybody has any issues getting signed up, go ahead and let me know in the chat. And
perfect.
I or perhaps Barb, who's on one of the other accounts here, can give you a hand there. And I want to add something to Jenny's mention of free, because I think this is important. Those of you who have been in education a long time, a lot of the time, free means either free for now, which Jenny's already said it doesn't, or it means like, this is not nice, kind of mediocre garbage. There are exceptions. There are certainly exceptions. But the important thing here, and to be clear, I don't work for LabXchange, but this isn't at the quality of a free platform. This is at the quality of an expensive platform.
Fantastic. All right. I'm not used to having such a great co-pilot, so thank you. All right. So it's really easy to sign up for an educator account. And once you go there, basically, you're going to be asked to click on the sign up button. It's in the top right-hand corner. It's going to ask you to verify your age. The reason why we ask for 13 and over is for learner accounts. And in order to have an educator account, you must be 18 and older. Once you click the age, it's going to redirect you to a platform called edX. And so edX right now is just kind of a single sign-on space for us that we've been using. And what it's allowing you to do is to be able to use a Facebook or maybe a Google account that you might want to use to instead of having to sign up completely. So hold on one second. For whatever reason, my screen is frozen. So I hope your screen isn't frozen. Let's see here. All right. So again, I'll just walk you through very quickly. I'm sure this is not as complicated as I'm making it out to be, but sign up. You're going to put in your age. And then again, what's going to ask you about edX. And here, if you already have an edX account, you can sign in or you can register. For me personally, I prefer just to sign in with Google and from there go through the steps. The most important thing after you've completed all of the fields is that it's going to send you an activation account link to that that email that you sent. And it's really important today that you go into that email, click on the activation button, and from there you should be logged on to an account. You'll know that you have an account because you will see this dashboard, a community piece. You'll also see a little icon that represents your profile and your account settings. I'll give you just a few more minutes. I just know sometimes the activation email can take a few seconds. If you are finished with that, I would absolutely love it if you could help me with some information that I'm certainly trying to gather. And that is really understanding the challenges that educators are facing. Obviously, I have my own assumptions based on my own experiences. But I'm definitely always keen to understand, what are the things that are taking time away from what you really love to do. So after you have created your account, I do have a poll in Poll Everywhere. And if you click on that link, you should be able to go right to that particular poll. You can enter as many struggles, as many challenges that you're facing, and we'll see them populate here. It's interesting. I've done this poll in quite a few times in the last month and a half, and I've asked this question before as well. And no matter how many times I ask, that time never gets smaller.
Yeah. Resources tends to be up there too, and I see that as well for this one.
Yep.
That's one of the things that I know we're going to get into this in a little bit, but that's one of the things I really love about LabXchange. Again, as an outsider, Jenny, is that you've got this really nice combo of vetted resources and flexibility, and I know you'll get into that, but stay tuned for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's just that time piece. And, thinking about my time in education, especially during COVID and the shutdown, my time became even more precious. And, coming out of COVID, just thinking about how many more things and more responsibilities I had as an educator in the classroom outside of just planning for teaching. So, that's always on our mind at LabXchange is, what can our platform do to save educators time? And I'm really hopeful today that what you see will in fact save you time and at this without sacrificing a really great, impactful, engaging lesson plan.
All right, so now I'm going to go to the assumption that most people are logged in and in. We know some of the big challenges. How can LabXchange address some of those challenges?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think the most important thing is that, recognizing that collaboration time, limited collaboration time, limited resources, tools and strategies, high quality lessons. Access to those are what really help to save time. And I think what you're going to find today is that LabXchange has created this platform that is meant to help and to support educators. So again, you mentioned it earlier, Jeremy, it's a Harvard initiative. It's funded by Amgen. And we also partner a strategic ally with UNESCO. And basically the idea is that we want to provide access to high quality and credible science education resources with the intent of engaging learners and giving educators tools so that they can take those resources and use them as they see fit, because educators at the end of the day are the experts in the classroom. They know when they need them, they know how they need to use them. And so that's really how our platform is set up. So today I want to talk to you just a little bit about these 4 items, these 4 things that I believe are benefits to our platform that directly speak to that time-saving piece, to that quality educator resource piece, and to that ability to, differentiate to meet the needs of your students. So let's get started with 19,000 plus science resources. So believe it or not, since I've started, that number has gone from 18,000 to 19,000. And we really pride ourselves on that number and the fact that it is growing at such an incredible rate. And so, the idea here is that we want LabXchange to be your one-stop shop. When I was in the classroom, I know that I had some great heavy hitters. I had PhET, HHMI, those were just a couple of the resources that I used all the time. But I found myself bookmarking. I had a bookmark page probably longer. You probably had the same. And I really ran into a lot of time where I was wasting time searching the internet, trying to find great resources, and going to a whole bunch of different websites. So the LabXchange platform is meant to be your one-stop shop. And we have created a very robust library with search features that allow you to, find these resources that you can use in the classroom. So you're probably thinking to yourself, though, how does LabXchange do it? And the way that we do this is by creating partnerships with some of the highest quality content providers. So you can see on my screen that I'm actually scrolling through our collaborators. And there's some big names in there: PhET, Khan Academy, like I said, HHMI, the Jackson Project. And what we do is we partner with these organizations, and we create a win-win situation where we host their content on our library. And even on top of that, we give them their own dashboard. So you don't necessarily have to go to the library and search through. You can actually go to their dashboard and go right to your favorite teaching gems from your trusted resources. So that's pretty cool. What do you think about that?
And that's one of the things that I was mentioning before that I think is important to mention. And you may not get into this. LabXchange has so many features that you're not going to get into all of them
Yes,
in 30 more minutes. But one of the ones that I like is that the resources that are visible and available are all vetted by actual practitioners, by science educators who go through and vet them. So you know what's in there is of a good or amazing quality. However, if you have resources, homegrown resources, friends, things that just haven't gone through that vetting process, but might be great and aligned, you can upload that stuff to LabXchange as well. Everyone else won't see it because only resources that are vetted, everyone will see. But if you want to, we're going to talk in a little bit about things like pathways and all of that stuff. If you want to include other content in your pathways, you can do that.
Absolutely. And one of the things when we source our content is that we place a really high premium on interactive content. So, one of our bread and butter pieces is the simulation and the interactive. And our belief is that these help learners to make sense of very abstract concepts. And, if you think a picture is worth 1,000 words, I can't even imagine how many words a simulation could be. So, we house many simulations. And I just popped over to another screen. I just want to double check you can see that. All right, so we have many simulations and interactives on our platform, but whenever we identify a gap or an educator need, that's when we kind of go into action and we actually make our own. So right now we're currently focused on developing biological science simulations, obviously in collaboration with our funder, which is Amgen Foundation and the scientists that work there. But we also have some other grants that we're working on and other opportunities. And we're expanding some of our simulations into the scientific method, following those practices from the next generation science standards, data literacy, which there is a huge gap out there. And we all know is just an important skill set for learners to have. And then also climate change is another aspect of simulation that we're currently working on as well. So you can see here that, we've got quite a few simulations, and our simulations are getting a lot of attention. We've got almost 1,000 favorites, 500,000 views on this gel electrophoresis, and 488, almost 500 remixes, which is telling us that these are being used in some way or shape or form by educators in a customized way. So what I want to do is I just want to show you a little bit of a walkthrough of a simulation, and some of the features that I feel as an educator are they hit the mark. They're just right on the mark. So this is a really simple idea. I was a biology teacher. I recall the expensive nature of micropipettes and gel electrophoresis. It definitely was a high level science skill that I asked my students to do in the biology classroom. And I wish I had had something like this for students to practice and really get a good understanding of the equipment and how to use it before they got to experience that real life moment. But at the same time, it's also great for schools and spaces that don't have access to this kind of equipment. Students are still able to experience some really, forward-thinking scientific inquiry and act as scientists do. So one of the great things I love about our simulations, we always have a level, and the level is based on the scaffold or the amount of support. Obviously, level 1, you're going to have the most scaffolding and support. Level 3 is more of an exploration with minimal hints. I think this part is wonderful as well. We all believe, as part of our instructional design principles, that we want to have a clear path. So the student is very clear on what is expected and what that path through the simulation will be. And so we always include what we call a lab notebook. And generally speaking, it has these pieces or components: context, background knowledge, the purpose, materials. I absolutely love the materials. All of them have alternate text, meaning that different kinds of reading capabilities to ensure accessibility. As a science teacher, though, this is probably one of my favorite aspects, and it's the ability to predict. And the great part is that at the beginning when you're predicting and at the end when you're reviewing the results, you get an opportunity to contrast your predictions with your results to see whether or not you had some great hypothesis or maybe your hypothesis were wrong. And I always remind students that many, many times in science, hypotheses of scientists are actually wrong most of the time, rather than them being right. So this is the actual simulation, and it kind of, has a gamification feel to it. I think students will, innately respond to this environment. I love it. It's interactive and they can go around and click and explore. And then when they're ready to perform the scientific exercise, all they have to do is follow this list of steps, which then, begets them some hints or some support if they needed to. But the best thing is that if they need to restart or they need to go back a few steps, there are always opportunities to take risks. And to me, this captures everything that we're trying to show students about, persistence, about seeing themselves in science, and about the nature of exploration. But I'm realizing something, Jeremy.
Yeah.
This is an interactive session. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to click this and I'm going to put this here in the chat, and I want to see what our group thinks about this simulation. So why don't you take maybe 3 minutes, and I definitely hope I get to hear some great music, but maybe about 3 or 4 minutes, and explore. The best way to understand something is to learn by doing. And, look at this from a perspective of your student. And when we come back on the other end, I'd love to hear your perceptions, what you think about these kinds of simulations and how your learners would respond.
While you begin that, go ahead and move away. Go to the simulation. If you are watching Jenny and I, leave us, go to the simulation. But we're going to keep talking for just a quick moment because there's something that I want to say, and then there's one question that I'd like to get to while we're doing this as well. The thing that I like to say, and Jenny touched on this, but boy, do I think it is so important to address over and over again, is that it's my belief. I assume as science educators, it is all of your belief, and it is certainly LabXchange's belief as well, that doing labs for real, touching things in a lab, is the best possible solution.
Absolutely.
Sometimes that's not an option, and LabXchange is great for that. I think in the case of most of you, that is an option. Actual labs is an option, and that's where the power here, one of the powers here is when you have the opportunity to walk through procedures, safety, skills ahead of time, it maximizes that lab time. It allows for, and I think you'll see, if this isn't something you're already doing with a similar solution, I think you'll see nearly overnight shifts in the rapidity that students are able to get into the labs, and also the decreased likelihood of mess ups and redos and all of those things, because you get those things worked out. All right, so now that I'm off my soapbox, Jenny, we've got a question from Ebony. Ebony, are you there with us?
As a matter of fact, I was just typing in the answer, and she was asking, can the platform also benefit community or non-formal educators, or not so much? The great thing about LabXchange is that this isn't a curriculum. It's not a program. It's a platform that allows you to be innovative and creative. And if you've got those skill sets in place, and you have a good idea of what you're planning to do, then I feel strongly that the platform it can be used in any type of situation. As a matter of fact, I just met with an aquarium here in Boston, and we were talking about using the platform for some pre-learning, pre-visit activities to help students acclimate themselves, with the aquarium, and maybe some projects or some things to think about and explore to deepen that experience when they come to the space. So the great thing about LabXchange, the sky's the limit, right? It's a space for you to be creative, and we provide you with as much content as you need and the tools that you need in order to create that experience that you believe will benefit and impact your learners, regardless of the setting.
From a community perspective too, an area where I know LabXchange has been used, because I've seen it happen, and I've heard from Garv and some of the other LabXchange team about this type of thing happening, is in libraries, in Big Brothers Big Sisters, organizations like that, where one of the things that they do is help get young people, learners, caught up, or their knowledge squared away. It gives a toolkit to those folks as well. At the library, there's not a science lab generally, but there is homework help very frequently, especially in major libraries. And this type of thing is a good solution for that as well. All right, so I know some of you have been digging into this lab a little bit. I know it's Friday, folks. I would rather be sitting with a cocktail somewhere. I'm sure you would like that too. But I do need a little bit of feedback from all of you. So if somebody wouldn't mind saying in the chat or raising your hand, and I'll go ahead and unmute you. We'd love to hear a little bit about what you've noticed, good, bad, ugly, and different. What have you noticed about the lab that you're playing around with so far? And if nobody saves her at random, I'm going to ask, my friend Donna to say something. Hi, Donna. All right. Nobody's saving you, Donna. So I am saying you're allowed to talk.
Oh,
Donna,
I've got
what?
2 people.
Oh, yeah, I do see a couple people. Perfect. All right. So first, Donna, so thanks for raising your hand. Donna, can you share a little bit about what you saw with that lab? You should be able to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Terrific. Well, I love the fact that there's the interactive engagement. That is really a major priority for us, engaging student minds, engaging them in a problem solving type of simulation, so that all the things that they may need to bring to the table, from whether it's science, math, engineering, whatever, are brought to that through their mind being engaged in solving this problem. So yeah, terrific.
Wonderful. That's such great feedback, Donna. I appreciate it.
And as the rest of you, as you're playing around, we're gonna kind of keep doing a little bit of these, but go ahead and put things in the chat if you'd like to, or raise your hand, and we'd love to hear from you as well. All right, so Jenny, we've played around with one of the labs. I assume that's kind of all LabXchange does, because it's
Absolutely
LabXchange,
not. That is like, I remember, Jeremy, it's one of a couple of features that I can show you today in this limited time. I always go with the interactives. I go with the simulations because I think we do a really good job of those. But we have a ton of other kinds. We call them assets. But again, it's that modular content. We've got simulation, or I'm sorry, I've already said that. We've got question sets, videos, narratives, stories. We have an incredible collection of stories from people who are scientists, who are in the field. And again, it goes back to that idea of promoting, students seeing themselves in the science, seeing themselves as a scientist, and seeing people like them as scientists. So that is an incredible collection. Images, text pieces, textbooks, you name it, we do not turn away. If it's high quality, if it's credible, our collaborators, then we're absolutely going to support that. Sam's asking a little bit about chem related content. Yes, we have chemistry, we've got some physics content, and all of those every day. Like I said, 19,000 today. Next month, I wouldn't be surprised we're at 20,000. So we're always looking for collaborators. And we've even created an opportunity for educators to say, hey, I use this great site every day. I'd love to find that piece, that content, or that source on your site. Let us know. We're gonna reach out, and we're looking for connections as well. One last thing though, and a connection I wanted to make that Jeremy talked about again earlier, and I'm going to talk about again, is that if there is something that is not publicly on our library, we have tools that allow you to bring that stuff in. So again, when I talk about the idea of one-stop shop, I'm talking about a library, a dashboard that has all of your favorite content in there. And it's as simple as, clicking on a star or adding content, going through a couple of links, quick clicks, and there you go. You've got this entire library of your own personalized content. If that doesn't save you time, I really don't know what does.
And I think it's also worth mentioning before we move on from these labs, Jenny, that Xanne mentioned in the chat that she loves that as she made a mistake, it didn't kind of come right out with hints, but as she made a mistake, it sort of guided her back into correct procedures.
Isn't that fantastic? And again, it's just, it's modeling that thinking and that process that scientists do. And you don't normally see that in a lot of lesson plans and activities that we see out there. I feel like that simulation really captures, that moment. And again, I agree. Nothing beats, in class, the real lab experience. But imagine giving this as a pre-lab experience and then sharing the actual lab with students. I can't even imagine how much more depth of understanding that these kids are going to walk away with, because they actually understand the processes and what they're trying to accomplish. So again, the sky's the limits in how you decide as an educator this most benefits your circumstances, your space, and your learners. So let's talk a little bit about the personal dashboard. That's where we're going to spend, the last 20 minutes of our time. I know that as an educator, I always found myself struggling to organize my life, let alone my curriculum. And so I think the LabXchange dashboard will honestly, it's going to simplify your life. Not only can you store your favorites on the platform, but like we've said a couple of times, you can upload new content. And saving your favorite content is really as simple as, going on this little link. I'm not sure if you can see my arrow, but you can see your ally in science there. There's a little star on the upper left-hand side. You click that and there you go. You saved a favorite to your dashboard. What I want to do really quick is show you though how to add content and how really simple it is. So, if you are following along and you do have your dashboard, feel free, if you want to do a side by side, but we talked about this today. This is your dashboard, your content. You want to add something new, something that's not in the public library. You can create something from scratch. I'm totally addicted to this particular video right now that we just released. It's about our third year celebration at LabXchange, and it's so cute. But look at this. It comes right out of YouTube. Look how little work I have to do. Because it came from YouTube, it already pastes my title, my video description. It even put my tags in my cover image. All I have to do really is agree to the terms and services and the privacy policy, press save, and there you go. I can go through and put in a transcript for time-saving purposes. Today I did not, but that's how easy it is to bring in your own content. And now this is private. It's something that's in my personal dashboard, but if I wanted to share with somebody, all I have to do is copy the link in the URL. I can easily share it with you. I could put it into Google Classroom as a link. I can, do any of the places where you would normally share link content, and it will direct individuals back to the space and they can see this particular asset or content piece. Isn't that simple? So Jeremy, you told me to do a scavenger hunt and I listened to you. And I gotta say, I love scavenger hunts. And so, one of the things that I agree is that, having some context around what you're looking for is important. I can definitely, you can take your time and go ahead and just look and use the library, and you are more than welcome to do that. However, if you are interested, I would recommend that you go out and try to find these particular sources and favorite them, because what we're going to do is we're going to use these sources to create a pathway, which is a fancy name at LabXchange for a lesson plan. All right. So I'll show you very quickly. I'm just looking here for text. What is evolution? And what my suggestion would be is that you want to go to the library, and I'm going to just type in what is evolution, because a search bar makes sense to me. All right. Oh, look at that. Easy peasy. And all I have to do is click the star and I've saved it to my dashboard. All right. So I'll put these back up and let's take about 1 to 2 minutes and see if you can get through the rest of the 5. Can you see that okay?
Yeah, it's like the tiniest bit blurred, but I think most people should be able to see it. If you can't, go ahead and say something in the chat and we'll let you know. Also, as you're looking for these things, if you've got any questions, please go ahead and ask those again in the chat or the Q&A tool. And our friend Ebony, Jenny, has another question while people are starting to look. And that question is about the content. So we know it's vetted. Is there a way yet for educators to kind of review or star rank or anything along those lines content?
To star rank, you mean?
Yeah, to star rank or review content so other educators can say, all right, I'm looking for something on evolution for, ninth grade.
Yes.
Oh, this one, a lot of people seem to love this resource as I'm searching
Yes,
through.
absolutely. So when you're in the library, and I apologize, my link is broken there that I'm trying to share with you. So one of the things that you can do is you can sort the library by relevance. So as how many words are in your search, how close it is to your search. Last added, I sometimes do this because, like I told you, we're always getting new collaborators. If you frequent the place, the website, this is something that would be really great. But what I think you're looking for would be most viewed and most favorited. So most favorited to me is, that's our way of educators and other users reporting that this is an absolutely credible and super high quality, something that could be used in the classroom, I would suggest. And then you can sort things that way. So as you can see, it's showing you the favorites. You can also do things by most viewed. Not everybody creates an account. Learners specifically don't always create an account. So many of these things can be consumed without an account. So views would be another thing that I would also sort that list by as well.
All right, so continue to look for those things. I did fix Jenny's link there, and
Thank
it's there
you.
in the chat if you need that. And Jenny, while they're continuing to take a look, Deb is asking if you could talk a little bit about sort of what the targeted grade levels are right now, or the heavily focused grade areas like right now, and if there are any plans for sort of expansion up or down from there, what those plans kind of look like.
All right. Yes, absolutely. So again, I told you earlier that we just put out we're in our third year. We just turned 3. So we're a startup. I've always wanted to work for a startup. So the initial conversation, the initial concentration in working with Amgen, our funder, were the biological sciences. Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate it. So the biological science you will see with regard to our simulations that LabXchange is making, that is the dominant subject area on the platform. But in the last year alone, we have expanded to really include, that full genre of the STEM, not STEAM yet. Well, I'm working on it, but STEM. So you will see, in the subject area, not only will you see the biological science, but you'll see chemistry, physics, and if you go through and start to go through some of these, you'll see that, it's quite impressive, the amount of subject areas. Now, going back to the levels, you can search by let's see, background knowledge. And I'm gonna tell you something about our belief system here at LabXchange. Number one is that we are a global platform. And number 2 is that we believe that any learner, as long as they are absolutely engaged, they're inspired, right? They're interested, that they will do the work of learning. And so sometimes when we place a grade level on stuff, then we believe that can sometimes stifle or redirect a learner to say, oh, that's not something that I am prepared to learn, or it's not something for me. So right now what we use is none, some, extensive. And I will tell you overall that we cater to, upper middle levels all the way up through college. Our plans are to move down through the middle school and then eventually be a K-12 platform. But for right now, none would be that you had no background experience or exposure or skill sets. Some would mean that you probably understand or are familiar with terms, vocabulary, but maybe need some support in understanding concepts, or you're building upon a concept. And then extensive to me would be, that you have a very sound foundation, and now you're kind of in those upper level high school, pre-college space kind of experiences. Do you think that answered the question for you?
Yeah, I think so, and you know, as Jenny mentioned, it airs a little more. I know they don't like to talk grade levels, but more on kind of that high school, upper middle school area. But I have personally been seeing more and more being added in, and I know of several middle schools who are already beginning to implement. Do they do those middle schools, again, in my personal experience? Do they do LabXchange all day, every day? No, not yet. But they use it for the targeted resources that align with their needs right now that are available, and I suspect, add to that usage as content expands.
And you know, Jeremy, I think that's where this customization and creation tools comes into play, right? Like, not only, you know, if you don't find the content that you're looking for, the thing that makes LabXchange really, you know, something that it spoke to me as an educator, especially as a middle level educator, was that I struggled with, how do I create something online, right? A learning experience online that allows my students to work through something at their own pace, and then, you know, creates an opportunity for me to be a facilitator of learning, right? I'm the person now who's giving feedback. I'm supporting learning. I'm catching those misconceptions, right, just in time, you know, rather than being the lecturer who's, you know, providing that knowledge base. And to me, this idea of being able to create these custom pathways, which is it's the same idea of a lesson or a learning pathway. To me, this is what really speaks to me. And the fact that I can add whatever content I want in that pathway, whether it's already on the LabXchange platform or something that I'm bringing in, that seems thoughtful to me. And I don't see a lot of other tools and spaces for educators that allow you to do that without a costly price tag, to be quite honest with you. So what I thought we could do with this last few minutes is kind of talk a little bit about a pathway and how to set one up. And let me know what you think and whether or not that's something you could see yourself using as an educator.
It's one of my favorite components. I'm excited to show this in the last few minutes.
Oh, yes. Excellent. All right. So what I'm going to do, I made a video so that I could be a talker rather than a clicker and a pointer. All right. Are you ready? So this is how easy it is to create a lesson plan pathway. So you're on your page. You're going to go to your dashboard. And just like we added a video, you're going to create new content, but this time you're going to select the pathway. When you get into the pathway, it's going to ask you for some details. Pathway name, which is the name of the lesson. And it's going to ask you for a short description that can be as long or as short as you'd like to make it. But basically, what is this lesson about? It's going to ask you to select the subject area. So in this case, if you didn't realize in your scavenger hunt, you were selecting things along the lines of evolution and natural selection. And just for fun, I decided to pick background knowledge. So now you can see the pathway, and I'm going to add my content. So today we favorited some things, and I've favorited a lot of things in this account. So I'm looking it up by the source. So I know that we had the Welcome Genome Project we favorited today. And look at that. I'm putting plus. So that's telling me, yep, I'm adding these 2 items to my pathway. I think we had a PhET and simulation, the natural selection simulation. And if I'm not mistaken, we had a Khan Academy video, I think it was. Let's see here. Oh, the interactive with the peppered moth. That's right. And now the Khan Academy. There was a video that they had, I think it was 17 minutes on natural selection or evolution or heredity. So once I've selected all those, I add those 5 items. And as you can see, it just automatically populates. And this is the best part. You drag and reorganize them. So I want to start my lesson off with something exciting, the peppered moth. Maybe after I do that phenomena, I'm going to have a text and a video to build some background knowledge. Then I'm going to have the learners do a simulation, and then I'm going to end with an extension activity. I can put in some tags. I can put in some learning objectives. And then basically after that, I agree to the terms of service and the privacy policy, and I save the pathway. And I think that took me, what, Jeremy, 3 minutes?
Yeah, it's pretty quick, pretty quick.
Yeah. So I just created a lesson that I could easily share with my learners. And again, they walk through that pathway and they experience the different content. And like I said, now I'm a facilitator of learning, right? They're learning at their own pace. They're digesting the content in a way that makes sense. They can stop, they can pause, they can do whatever they want for that sense-making process. They can ask me questions, and it just changes the dynamic between me as the educator and the learners in the classroom.
Jenny, is there a way yet to do, and these are things, I probably should ask you these questions ahead of time so I don't ask about things that don't exist. But is there
we
a
always
way
like
yet,
feedback.
That's true. Is there a way yet to do pathways that have branching components? In other words, I did well on this, so fine. I clearly don't understand this, so now I'm going to go through these modules.
Well, I think what you're referring to, which will be a whole other webinar, would be the class feature. So we actually have a feature that allows you to create a class. And once you create a class, you can actually progress monitor students as they go through the learning pathways. And while you're monitoring them, you might think to yourself, I've noticed that this student is not doing well on this particular simulation. Or maybe you put in some check for understanding questions and they're not scoring well. The class allows you to assign just to that particular student additional content to either support or maybe extend their learning. Maybe a student, is making incredible progress and is leaps and bounds ahead of their peer. You have a conversation with them, a conference with them, and discover they have a huge interest in something that's, still aligned to that topic, but goes above and beyond. You can independently assign that learner another pathway, some other content to review, some other questions, some other performance tasks. So it might not be your traditional AI kind of thing that we're seeing a lot happening right now where, depending on how a student responds to a question set, the teacher is still a big component and decision maker throughout the learning process with the LabXchange classes and the pathways.
All right. So Jenny, as you are aware, especially on a Friday, especially with teachers, am a hardcore stickler for ending on time. We never go long. So here's the question. I'm under the assumption that the folks who are with us here now, the folks who are listening to the recording later, that they're going to play around. It's pretty self-explanatory, but also there's a lot there. So for those folks who run into questions or issues, what is their best way of getting help and solutions from the LabXchange team?
Well, I always suggest that you reach out to me personally. I am always here for you. When I was an educator, especially an educator, a science educator in a small rural district, I felt like I was alone. And so I'm incredibly empathetic, and I will take the time anytime. I put my email in the chat. You are more than welcome to reach out. But we do have a great help support embedded in our website. We have a help center with tutorials, even teacher resources. This is a fantastic page that you can go and explore all of our best examples of the different content pieces we offer. And you can even ask for help on here as well by contacting us. I also wanted to share with all of you that I shared a final pathway with you in the chat box. And that pathway is a private pathway that you can clone. So I'm just going to show you really just 2 seconds quickly. And no, I'm not. Here we go. So if you receive this pathway up these three little things, you can clone it. And you are more than welcome to delete or change or add anything you want in there. But I do want to share with you that I added in some lesson worksheets if you wanted to go through this evolution piece. And again, these were all things that I created to support my learners and my lesson. And that's at the end of the day what LabXchange can do. The sky's the limits, right? And I think it saves you time. I think that when you go to LabXchange, you can be absolutely certain that it is credible, it's high quality, and we're always listening to educators and always looking for ways that we can make your lives easier.
Well, thank you, Jenny. We really appreciate you taking time. That's Jennifer at labexchange.org. If you have any of those questions, the key here is that it's super high quality, it's super aligned. And to me, the big key is that it's remixable, editable, and it's very easy to make it your own so that we can bring some of that art back into teaching. Thank you all for joining us on a Friday afternoon. I don't know how you do it. So I really, really appreciate it. You deserve your weekend, everyone. So thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend, and we will see you all next time.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, everyone.